right now, there is a very good chance your brain is actively lying to you.
Oh, absolutely. It happens to all of us.
I'm your host, and welcome to today's deep dive. Like, every time you push a difficult looming project to tomorrow, you aren't doing it because you're lazy. You're doing it because your brain is trying to protect you from an emotional threat.
I'm your resident expert, and yeah, it is a fascinating ancient defense mechanism that completely backfires in the modern world.
Yeah.
Exactly. We tell ourselves that really beautiful, comforting lie, I will definitely do it tomorrow.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Right, because we think we are simply managing our time. But in reality, we're just fleeing from a very specific kind of psychological discomfort.
So in today's deep dive, we are looking squarely at that universal struggle, putting things off. And our mission today is incredibly practical, right? We are pulling from a highly focused educational script. It's designed to give us the literal, actionable steps to just stop delaying our work.
And it's a vital framework, because no matter how organized someone might look on the outside, everyone experiences this friction.
Yeah, tomorrow never comes. But we aren't just going to list life hacks today. We're going to unpack the underlying psychology of why we avoid our responsibilities. And then we'll explore 3 simple sequential steps from our source to finally break that cycle today.
Because the way out isn't what most productivity culture tells us. It's not about brute force at all.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can fix the problem, we really need to understand what the problem actually is. And the source material starts with this massive paradigm shift. It states point blank that procrastination is not about being lazy.
Right.
Instead, it usually happens because we feel either stressed or bored by a particular undertaking. But I have to push back on this a little.
Go for it.
When I'm lying on the couch, actively avoiding a spreadsheet, and I'm watching my 3rd hour of television, I feel lazy. Society calls it lazy. So why is this text so insistent on separating the behavior from a character trait?
Well, because diagnosing it as laziness is a fundamental error. And it actually makes the problem worse.
Wait, really? How so?
Because think about it, laziness implies apathy, like a total lack of energy or desire to do anything at all. But think about your own behavior when you're avoiding that spreadsheet. You probably have plenty of energy, right?
Yeah, I might reorganize my entire kitchen.
Exactly. You deep clean your bathroom or go down some massive internet rabbit hole. The energy is absolutely there. What's actually happening is a severe emotion regulation problem.
Oh, wow. So if I can offer an analogy, it's like society...
Yes.
But what you were saying is that the gas tank is completely full, the engine is running, but we've got the parking brake pulled all the way up because we see something terrifying in the road ahead.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. The parking brake is the negative emotion attached to the specific job you're avoiding. Your brain is a prediction machine. So when you look at an ambiguous or massive undertaking, your brain predicts a really high cost in mental energy. It anticipates the stress of not knowing how to do it perfectly,
right,
or the overwhelming boredom of doing something tedious. So it sounds an internal alarm.
And what do we do when an internal alarm goes off? We step away from the danger. We choose the path of immediate emotional relief.
We look for the escape hatch. But here's the flaw in that defense mechanism. Kicking the can down the road doesn't actually solve the threat.
No, it really doesn't. Which raises the question, why doesn't the brain care about the consequences of tomorrow?
Because our evolutionary wiring heavily prioritizes immediate relief over future comfort. When we say, I'll do it tomorrow, we get an instant hit of relief. The stress just vanishes for a few hours.
Right, but simply waiting a day doesn't magically remove the stress or the boredom. The task itself hasn't changed at all.
Exactly. When tomorrow arrives, the exact same emotional roadblock is sitting right there, triggering the exact same alarm.
So the negative emotion is still there, but now we've added the guilt of having delayed it for a whole day.
Yes, the guilt makes it so much heavier.
And then we mislabel that entirely natural aversion as a personal failure, like, oh, I'm so lazy. And the shame makes the roadblock even bigger.
Precisely. Understanding this dynamic is just incredibly liberating. Once you stop beating yourself up for a perceived character flaw, you can stop trying to fix your personality.
And start dealing with the actual mechanics of the emotional roadblock.
Exactly. You can focus on practical solutions to lower that stress or bypass that boredom.
Which provides the perfect logical bridge to the first practical solution in our source. If the root of the problem is the brain treating the work like a threat, How do we disarm the alarm?
We have to lower the barrier to entry.
Right, which leads directly to step 1, the 5-minute rule. The source explains it like this. If you don't want to do something, you just tell yourself you will only do it for 5 minutes. That's it.
A classic strategy, but one that is often deeply misunderstood.
Yeah, because starting is inherently the hardest part.
Yeah.
And once you start, you often want to finish, like dipping your toes in the pool, right?
Yeah.
You get to the edge, and you end up jumping in.
That's a great way to look at it.
But, I have to challenge the premise here. My brain is pretty smart. It knows I actually have to finish the entire multi-hour project. So how does pretending I'm only going to work for 5 minutes actually override a deeply ingrained survival mechanism? Isn't this just a clever way of tricking our own brains?
What's fascinating here is it doesn't try to override the survival mechanism at all. It actively negotiates with it.
Negotiates.
Yeah. Think about an overactive smoke detector. If your brain sees due taxes on your calendar, the smoke alarm blares and the building goes into a complete lockdown. The 5-minute rule is like lighting a single highly controlled match.
Oh, I see.
It lets you work in the room without triggering the emotional sprinkler system.
Here's where it gets really interesting. By drastically lowering the time commitment, we are effectively whispering to the brain, hey, we aren't doing the whole terrifying thing right now. This isn't a life or death energy expenditure.
Exactly. You are entirely bypassing the threat response. The stress of anticipating a massive effort is almost always far worse than the friction of actually executing it.
Yeah, the dread is always worse than the work.
Always. When you commit to just 5 minutes, you eliminate the overwhelming stress of the entire job. You bypass that initial dread, and once you sit down and actually begin, once you hit minute 3 or 4, the situation changes. Your brain realizes, oh, I'm surviving this. The keyboard isn't burning my hands. This isn't actually a threat.
And then the alarm shuts off.
Yeah.
And the physics of human behavior shift. It takes a massive amount of energy to go from a complete standstill to moving. But once you are moving,
momentum takes over. The friction of starting is gone.
Right. Getting into the pool is agonizing. But once you are in the water and your body adjusts to the temperature, it's actually more effort to climb back out and dry off than it is to just keep swimming.
The 5-minute rule gets you past that temperature shock.
Okay, so the 5-minute rule gets us moving. It bridges the gap between inaction and action. But momentum is fragile. Right?
Very fragile.
Let's say the 5-minute rule gets me started. If the first thing I look at during those 5 minutes is a giant ambiguous goal, that smoke alarm is going to go right back off.
Absolutely. If the whole problem is that the work feels too big or too stressful, simply starting it doesn't permanently shrink it.
Which is why step 1 will fail if you don't immediately pair it with step 2. You have to literally change how you define the work itself.
Yes, to maintain that momentum.
The source calls this break it down, and it uses a brilliant contrast to explain it. The text says, do not write finished project on your to-do list. Instead, write something incredibly small, like write 1 paragraph.
Because small goals just inherently feel much better.
They do. But I want to dig into the human behavior side of this. Is a giant to-do list actually a source of the very stress causing the delay in the first place? Like, why do our brains sabotage us with these massive labels?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really comes down to the psychology of aspiration versus execution.
Aspiration versus execution.
Yeah. When we sit down on a Sunday night and write finished project for the week ahead, we are operating in an aspirational mode. We're visualizing the completed goal, and our brain actually gives us a premature hit of satisfaction just from the idea of being done.
Oh, it feels so good to plan a massive victory. Finished project feels great on Sunday night.
But when Monday morning rolls around and you transition into execution mode, that massive label suddenly reveals its true nature. It is no longer a victory, it is a mountain.
Right.
It carries the weight of 100 smaller, unwritten, totally ambiguous steps. And as we know, ambiguity is the absolute breeding ground for stress. When you look at a label like that, your brain instantly feels the fatigue of the entire mountain climb before you've even taken a single step.
It triggers that exact threat response we talked about in section 1. The roadblock goes right back up. So shrinking the label to write 1 paragraph isn't just about making it sound cute. It's about completely removing the ambiguity.
Yes. A small label is a clear map. A big label is a dark wilderness. Write one paragraph is highly specific, it's undeniably achievable, and most importantly, it fits perfectly within that initial 5-minute window we established in step 1.
Oh, I see how the mechanics interlock here. They're like a 1-2 punch against the threat response.
They work perfectly in tandem. You tell yourself, I only have to work for 5 minutes, and my only goal in those 5 minutes is to write one single paragraph. Suddenly, that massive emotional roadblock is dismantled into pebbles.
The barrier to entry is so low you can just step right over it.
And here's the neurological bonus. The dopamine hit you get from actually achieving that small goal, from crossing off write one paragraph, propels you into the next small goal. You replace the cycle of avoidance with the cycle of reward.
That makes total sense for conquering the stress trigger. We make the timeline smaller and we make the goal smaller. But wait. We are forgetting the other half of the procrastination equation.
Ah, yes, the boredom.
Right. The source explicitly said we delay because we feel stressed or bored.
Yes, and the boredom factor is equally dangerous, if not more so in our modern world.
Because when we are bored, we look for escapes. We look for anything shiny to take our minds off the tedious thing in front of us. And that brings us to the third and final step, controlling your environment.
The environment is everything.
The specific example the text calls out, and I felt personally attacked by this, is mobile phones and social media.
The ultimate, universally accessible escape hatches.
I am incredibly guilty of this. I sit down to do something tedious, I feel that wave of boredom hit,
Yeah?
and almost unconsciously my phone is in my hand. I'm scrolling when I absolutely should be working.
It happens so fast.
It does. But the instruction in the source is strikingly simple. It says to literally put your phone in another room. The golden rule it provides is, if you can't see it, you won't use it.
A very powerful rule.
Now, I want to challenge this premise too. Is willpower really so weak that simply moving the phone to another room makes the difference? I mean, shouldn't we just cultivate more discipline?
Well, the assumption that we should rely on willpower is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the brain's attention networks actually operate. Willpower isn't a moral virtue. It is a heavily taxing, easily depleting cognitive resource.
Oh, so it's not a muscle we can just flex indefinitely.
Not at all. If you are sitting at your desk trying to write that one paragraph, but your phone is sitting right there face up within arm's reach, your brain is actively processing it as a high-reward stimulus. It's basically a slot machine sitting right next to your keyboard.
And it's humming with temptation.
Exactly. Every time you glance at it or even perceive it in your peripheral vision, your brain automatically calculates the potential dopamine reward of checking it against the immediate boredom of the task in front of you.
Wow.
Which means you have to spend conscious cognitive energy to not pick it up. Over and over and over again, you're fighting a war on two fronts. You're fighting the boredom of the work, and you're fighting the gravitational pull of a highly engineered distraction.
So you are draining your battery just resisting the visual cue.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Eventually, the cognitive battery drains, the willpower snaps, and you pick it up. This is why changing the physical space changes the entire equation. By moving the phone to another room, you completely remove the visual cue.
You remove the need for willpower entirely.
Yes. As the text explicitly states, if you can't see it, you won't use it. You are taking the option of escape out of your immediate physical reality.
So out of sight, out of mind isn't just a catchy phrase. It's about conserving your cognitive load.
Precisely. When that inevitable wave of boredom hits, and it will hit, because work is sometimes boring.
Definitely.
You look around, and the escape hatch simply isn't there. The easiest thing to do in that moment, the path of least resistance, is simply to return your focus to the single paragraph you are trying to write. You've designed a physical space where it is actually easier to do the work than it is to avoid it.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at this entire framework, we aren't talking about personality makeovers or becoming some hyper-disciplined machine. We're just managing our emotional state and our physical surroundings.
It takes all the shame and the moralizing out of the equation and replaces it with pure mechanics.
It really does. So let's bring this deep dive to a close by reviewing exactly what we've learned today and locking in the core concepts from our text for you, the listener.
Let's do it.
First, we've learned that procrastination, meaning to delay work, isn't a character defect or a sign of laziness. It is a powerful, misdirected emotion regulation strategy. It's our brain trying to protect us from stress or boredom.
It is an avoidance mechanism that we can actively negotiate with.
Exactly. And to win that negotiation, we have to rethink how we approach a given task, which is just another word for a job or piece of work. We neutralize the brain's threat response by shrinking the task down from a vague, stressful mountain into a single, concrete stepping stone.
And giving ourselves permission to just tackle it for 5 minutes.
Right. By lowering the barrier to entry, we allow momentum to take over. And finally, to protect that momentum from the trap of boredom, we must ruthlessly curate our physical environment. And by environment, we mean the area around you.
Because if your environment is full of visual cues and easy escapes, your cognitive battery will drain and you will take them.
You have to design a space where the work is the path of least resistance.
You curate the space to support your focus, rather than testing your willpower.
So for you listening right now, I want you to think of one specific task you're actively avoiding today. One thing you've been telling yourself you will do tomorrow. Take a moment right now to change your environment. Put that phone in another room and try the 5-minute rule.
Break the label down.
Just dip your toes in. Lower the barrier, set a timer, and see what happens when the momentum takes over.
And as you do, I'll leave you with a final thought to ponder. We've established that pushing things off is truly just a reaction to stress or boredom. So if you look very closely at that specific task you are avoiding right now, what does it reveal about what you secretly find terrifying, ambiguous, or profoundly uninspiring in your daily life?
That's deep.
The things we run from often have the most to teach us about exactly where we are feeling stuck.
A really profound question to end on. Until next time, keep diving deep.